The Alpha's Forbidden Bride, Episode 2. Chapter 1. Shadows of the Bond. The forest stank of blood and smoke. Dawn had risen, but it brought no peace, only silence broken by the groans of the wounded and the low growls of wolves guarding their dead. And in the center of it all, Rowan knelt in chains. Silver bound his wrists, burning angry welts into his skin. His head was bowed, his breath ragged, but his eyes still burned with defiance as the pack surrounded him. "You should have killed me, Damian," Rowan spat, his voice hoarse but unyielding. "Because as long as I breathe, I'll never follow you again." Damian stood over him, his chest bare, streaked with blood, some his, most not. His golden eyes blazed with fury, but there was something deeper in them, pain, betrayal. "You were my brother," Damian growled, his voice low, dangerous, "and you sold us to hunters." Rowan's laugh was broken, bitter. "I sold nothing. I saved them. You're the one damning us all, for her." His gaze cut to Clara, sharp as a blade. The wolves followed it, and she felt the weight of their eyes, suspicion, resentment, fear. Heat crawled up Clara's neck, but she forced herself to stand tall. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. Not when every whisper seemed to coil around her like a noose. "She'll be the end of you," Rowan hissed. "Of all of us." Damian's hand shot out, gripping his beta by the throat, lifting him half off the ground. A growl tore from his chest, primal and lethal. "One more word, and I will end you here." The pack tensed, waiting. Some looked eager, others afraid. But before the threat could become reality, Clara's voice broke through, softer, trembling, but firm. "Damian, stop. You're bleeding." It was only then that she saw it fully. The deep gash along his side, blood running down his ribs, dripping to the forest floor. The fight with Rowan had taken more from him than he would admit. His grip faltered. Rowan fell back to his knees, choking for breath. Damian swayed, his strength staggering. Clara rushed forward, ignoring the hostile stares of the pack, catching his arm before he could collapse. "You can't lead them if you fall," she whispered urgently. "Let me help you." For a heartbeat, his eyes met hers, golden fire dimming with exhaustion. And in that moment, despite the ruin around them, despite the wolves watching, it felt as though the world narrowed to just the two of them. She pressed her hand to his wound, blood hot against her skin, and felt the bond thrum between them stronger than before, demanding, alive. Rowan's bitter laugh cut through the silence. "Look at him. Alpha brought low by a human's touch. This pack is already lost." But Damian didn't let go of her, and Clara didn't step away. Chapter 2. Fractured Loyalties. The air in the clearing was heavy with smoke and silence. Dawn had fully broken, but the light did little to warm the tension crackling among the pack. Rowan's snarls still echoed in Clara's ears, long after he was dragged to the old stone pit, the prison reserved for wolves who had betrayed their own. She thought the pack might find relief now that their traitor had been chained. Instead, she felt the shift immediately. Heads turned, eyes narrowed, whispers slithered through the crowd like venom. Their gazes weren't fixed on Rowan anymore. They were fixed on her. Clara tried not to shrink beneath their suspicion, but the weight of it pressed hard. She caught fragments of what they muttered. Human, outsider, curse, words sharp enough to slice flesh. Damian stood tall, his presence alone keeping the growls from turning into outright violence, but Clara could see the muscle in his jaw tighten. His pack was questioning him, and for an alpha, that was more dangerous than silver chains. "Back to your duties," Damian commanded, his voice steady and sharp as a blade. "Mourn our dead, strengthen the borders. Rowan's betrayal ends with him." Most obeyed. Some lingered, exchanging wary glances before dispersing into the trees. The order was followed, but not the loyalty behind it. Clara could feel the fracture widening. By midday, The pack was restless. The forest rang with hammering as wolves rebuilt the barricades torn down in the hunters' attack. Clara helped where she could, hauling wood, tying bindings, but every time her hands reached out, silence followed. Wolves shifted away from her touch, leaving tools behind rather than brushing her skin. She bent to lift another beam when a low voice hissed behind her. "You don't belong here." She froze. Turning, she found herself face to face with Kalen, one of Damian's oldest fighters. His yellow eyes glared with open disdain. "Because of you," he growled, stepping closer. "Rowan's words burn like truth. Hunters come because of you. Wolves bleed because of you." "I never—" Clara began, but her throat closed. How could she defend herself when part of her feared he was right? Before Kalen could press further, Damian appeared, his shadow falling long and commanding. "Enough!" The word thundered between them. "You will not speak to her that way." Kalen lowered his gaze, but his defiance flickered. "I only speak what others think, Alpha. The pack bleeds, and she stands untouched." Damian's snarl was low and dangerous. "One more word, and you'll join Rowan in chains." Kalen dipped his head, but the hatred in his eyes never dimmed. He stalked off, leaving silence in his wake. Clara exhaled shakily. "He's not wrong," she whispered, her voice trembling as she turned to Damian. "They look at me like I'm poison." "You're not." His reply came fierce, immediate. He gripped her arm, grounding her. "Do not take their fear into your heart, Clara. You saved me, you saved them, and they will see it in time." But even as he spoke, Clara felt the distance between herself and the pack widening. Damian's faith was a shield, but she wondered how long even he could hold it against so many. That night, the whispers grew louder. Clara could hear them outside the cabin where she and Damian rested. Wolves speaking in low, urgent tones. Questions of loyalty, questions of fate. And always, her name threaded through their voices like a curse. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, her hands curled into fists. "They hate me," she said into the darkness. "I'm tearing your pack apart." Damian stood by the window, the silver light of the moon painting his profile in steel and shadow. His silence was long, and when he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of an alpha wrestling with truth. "They fear what they don't understand," he said. "But fear can turn wolves rabid if not checked." He turned to her then, his gaze fierce, protective, but troubled. "The bond is changing everything, Clara. Not just for us." He glanced toward the voices outside. "For all of them." Her heart pounded, her chest tightening as she met his eyes. For the first time since the chaos began, she wondered not only if she belonged here, but what the bond between them might awaken next. And in the pit at the edge of the forest, Rowan's laughter echoed low, cold, and certain, as if he could already taste the pack's unraveling. Chapter 3. Whispers of Power. Sleep should have come easily after the exhausting day, but Clara found no rest. The moment her eyes closed, the forest swallowed her. She walked beneath a sky swollen with a silver moon, brighter than she had ever seen. Shadows moved among the trees, wolves, dozens of them, their eyes glowing like embers. They circled her, not with malice, but with something heavier, expectation. She turned, searching for Damian, but instead a great wolf emerged from the dark. Its fur shimmered white as frost, eyes like twin stars. When it opened its jaws, the voice that filled her mind was not her own. "Daughter of two worlds. The bond will break or bind the fate of many. Choose with care." The earth split beneath her, flames leaping high. Wolves howled as fire consumed the forest, and from the blaze rose a figure cloaked in shadow, chains of silver wrapped around its arms. Its gaze locked on her, and though the face was hidden, Clara felt a shudder of recognition. The hunters. She woke with a gasp, her skin slick with sweat. The cabin was silent save for the steady sound of Damian's breathing beside her. He slept uneasily, his body taut even in rest. For a moment, Clara just watched him, her chest tight with unspoken fear. Then his eyes opened, gold in the moonlight. He had felt her distress. "What did you see?" His voice was low, rough with sleep, but edged with urgency. Clara hesitated. "Wolves. Fire. Chains." She swallowed hard. And a voice. Warning me. Warning us. Damian sat up, every muscle coiled. "A vision," he said, not a question. "The bond is opening you to the old ways." "The old ways?" she echoed, confused. He turned toward her, the moonlight catching the scar at his jaw. "Our kind once believed the mate bond carried not just love, but power, sight, strength. It was rare, dangerous. Most dismissed it as legend." "And you think I know you are," he cut in, his tone sharp, almost fearful. "Clara, humans don't dream the way wolves do. What you saw, it's real. A warning." Her heart thudded. "Then the hunters are closer than we thought." His gaze locked onto hers, fierce and protective. "But so is your place in this war." The words unsettled her, yet something in them also stirred. A pulse, low in her chest, spreading warmth and fire through her veins. The bond. It was stronger tonight, thrumming between them like a living thread. Without meaning to, Clara leaned closer. Damian mirrored her, as if pulled by the same invisible tether. His breath mingled with hers, the space between them shrinking until only a whisper remained. Her hand lifted, brushing the edge of his jaw. His skin was hot beneath her fingers, his eyes darkening, hunger and restraint clashing in their depths. "Damian," she whispered. He closed his eyes briefly, as though fighting himself, then captured her hand in his, pressing it against his chest where his heartbeat thundered. "You don't know what you're doing to me," he growled softly. The air was charged, heavy, filled with the ache of something forbidden, yet inevitable. For a moment, Clara thought he would give in, their bond demanding what both longed for. But then, with a ragged breath, Damian pulled back. "I can't," he muttered, turning away, his fists clenched. "Not while the pack doubts you, not while danger hunts us. If I claim you fully now, it will tear everything apart." The rejection cut deeper than she expected, but beneath it Clara felt the bond surge stronger, as though mocking his restraint. And in the silence that followed, the echo of that dream returned. The bond will break or bind the fate of many. Chapter 4. The gathering storm. The forest was restless. Even the wind seemed uneasy, carrying the scent of ash and iron long before any enemy appeared. The wolves felt it, first ears flicking, hackles rising as if the earth itself whispered of danger drawing near. By morning, the news came. Scouts returned bloodied and shaken, their reports grim. Hunters were gathering again, but this time they were organized. Their raids weren't scattered attacks anymore. They moved like soldiers, driven by a single hand. Damian stood at the heart of the clearing, listening as the scouts knelt before him. "They call him the Warden," one rasped. "Not like the others. He knows our ways, where we run, how we fight. He carries chains silver, blessed with fire." A chill rippled through the pack. Clara felt it like ice in her veins. She remembered the dream, the figure cloaked in shadow with silver binding its arms. She didn't dare speak of it aloud, not yet. "The Warden hunts for more than blood," the scout added, voice breaking. "He wants her." His eyes flicked to Clara. The pack erupted in growls and whispers. Some turned on her openly now, their fear spilling into hostility. "She's the reason they won't stop," one shouted. "The hunters won't rest until she's delivered to them." Clara stepped back, heart hammering. The weight of their suspicion pressed down like chains. Damian's roar silenced them. "Enough!" His golden eyes blazed, alpha power surging through the clearing. "Touch her, and you answer to me." But even as the pack lowered their gazes, Clara could see it, the cracks deepening. Loyalty was splintering, and no command could fully bind it again. Later, Damian descended into the stone pit where Rowan was chained. The traitor sat against the wall, silver biting into his wrists, yet his smile was sharper than ever. "So," Rowan drawled, voice raw but steady. "The Warden comes. I warned you, brother. She'll be your ruin." Damian's snarl echoed off the stone. "You sold us out to hunters, and you dare to speak of ruin?" Rowan leaned forward, chains clinking. His eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. "I didn't sell us out. I tried to save us. But you." His gaze slid toward Clara's scent, lingering faintly on Damian's clothes. "You'll burn the whole pack to ashes for one human." Damian lunged, seizing Rowan by the throat, silver chains rattling as his brother choked. "Say one more word against her," Damian growled, voice shaking with rage, "and I'll end you here." But Rowan only laughed, the sound ragged and defiant. "Do it. Kill me. And prove to them all that your bond with her matters more than your pack." Damian's hand trembled. For a moment, Clara thought he might give in to his fury, crush the life from Rowan then and there. But with a harsh snarl, he released him, shoving Rowan back against the stone. Rowan coughed, blood on his lips, but his grin remained. "The Warden will come for her. And when he does, every wolf you claim to protect will die because you chose her." That night, Clara lay awake, the words echoing in her mind. She wanted to believe Damian's faith was enough to hold the pack together, but doubt gnawed at her. She could feel the tension in the air, thick as smoke. Wolves who once trusted their alpha now whispered in corners, their eyes sliding toward her with distrust and fear. The dream returned when she finally drifted to sleep. Wolves burning in fire, chains tightening around her wrists, and the shadowed figure stepping closer, his voice cutting through the roar of the flames. "You are mine." Clara jolted awake, her skin icy with dread. She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that the Warden was not just a hunter. He was something more, something that understood the bond better than even Damian did. Chapter 5. The Breaking Point. The night was too quiet. Even the crickets hushed, the forest holding its breath. Clara stood near the cabin's door, unease coiling in her chest like smoke. She couldn't shake the dreams that had haunted her for days, the fire, the chains, the voice claiming her. Damian was speaking with his lieutenants when it hit her. A flash, sharp, blinding her vision, twisting. She was no longer standing in the clearing. She was above it, watching from some impossible vantage point. Wolves slept scattered across the camp. Then the trees split open, and shadows poured in. Hunters, masked and armored, silver glinting under moonlight. She saw their movements with perfect clarity, saw the path of their blades before they struck. Her breath ripped from her throat as the vision snapped back. Her body staggered, knees buckling. "They're here," she gasped. "Damian, they're coming now." He spun toward her, disbelief flashing for only a heartbeat before his instincts took over. His voice thundered across the clearing. "To arms!" The pack surged awake, confusion turning to panic as the first arrows whistled from the trees. Wolves shifted in a blur of fur and fangs, snarling as hunters broke through the barricades. Silver bit into the earth, into flesh. Clara pressed against the cabin, her heart racing, the scene from her vision unfolding exactly as she had seen. She screamed a warning, "Left flank, behind the oak," and Damian pivoted, intercepting a blade that would have taken his second in command. The wolves heard her. They obeyed. And again, her cries cut through the chaos, saving lives where death had already been written. But the bond burned hotter with each vision that struck her. The flashes came faster, brutal, leaving her trembling, blood trickling from her nose. Every time she warned them, the power tore more from her. Damian fought like fire itself, his wolf blazing with fury, but Clara's cries drew his gaze even as he slashed down foes. He saw her falter, saw the cost. His chest clenched with fear, not just for the battle, but for her. Then the air split with a sound colder than steel. Chains rattled. Heavy, deliberate footsteps pressed through the clearing. The warden had come. He didn't rush like the others. He moved with purpose, each step commanding silence. Cloaked in black, his face hidden beneath a hood of shadow, he carried silver chains that smoked where they dragged the earth. The hunters drew back, giving him space, their formation tightening as if even they feared him. Clara's vision seized her one last time. She saw herself bound in those chains, the fire consuming the wolves, Damian broken at her feet. Her scream tore through the clearing, raw and desperate. Damian's eyes snapped to her, then to the figure advancing. Rage like she had never seen flared in him. He shifted fully, his wolf form towering, fur bristling like a storm. His roar shook the trees, but the warden did not flinch. Instead, the shadowed man lifted his head, and though his features were still hidden, his voice rolled across the battlefield, deep and merciless. "She is mine." The words froze Clara's blood, the same ones from her dreams, spoken now in the waking world. The battle halted, suspended on a knife's edge. Wolves snarled, hunters tightened their grip, and Clara's heart pounded with one terrible certainty. This was no ordinary man. The warden was something else, something that understood the bond, and he had come for her. Orator Chapter 6. Blood on the Moon. The clearing still burned with the echoes of battle. Silver glinted on the torn ground, arrows quivering in the soil like needles driven into the earth's skin. The air reeked of iron and smoke. Every sound had died, every breath stolen. Only one figure moved. The warden. Cloaked in shadow, he stood beneath the swollen moon, its light breaking across his hood like blood through silk. The hunters had dropped to one knee, heads bowed not in victory, but in fear. The wolves crouched low, snarling, yet unable to move closer. The world itself seemed to hold its breath. Clara's chest rose and fell in quick, shallow gasps. Her heartbeat thundered through her ears until she couldn't tell if it was hers or Damian's pulsing through their bond. The warden's voice still lingered in the air, those three terrible words, "She is mine," vibrating through her bones. Damian stepped forward. His wolf form shimmered and broke, leaving the man bare, bleeding, golden eyes burning through the smoke. "No," he growled, voice raw, primal. "She's under my protection." The warden tilted his head slightly, as though amused by a child's defiance. "Your protection," he murmured, his tone deep enough to tremble the leaves. "Do you think the moon recognizes your claim, Alpha?" He raised one hand. The air shuddered. Chains of light, thin as spider silk, coiled from his palm, snaking across the clearing. Wolves whined and staggered as the air grew heavy, pressing them into the ground. Clara's knees buckled. Pain lanced her chest, the bond with Damian tightening like a rope pulled too hard. She could feel the warden's power crawling through her veins, searching, recognizing her. Damian lunged forward, but the moment he moved, the chains brightened, wrapping around his throat and wrists mid-air. He was hurled backward, slammed against a tree, bark splintering beneath the force. "Damian!" Clara screamed, reaching out. The warden turned toward her. The shadows beneath his hood rippled, and for a moment she thought she saw eyes ancient, storm-gray and sorrowful. "You remember me, don't you, little one?" he whispered. "The fire, the oath, the night you called my name." She shook her head, tears burning. "I don't know you." He took a single step closer. The ground trembled. "Yes," he said softly. "You do. You've just forgotten what it cost you." Something inside her snapped. The bond between her and Damian flared like lightning. Her palms blazed white. The chains holding Damian shattered into silver dust. The warden's cloak whipped back, wind bursting from nowhere. "So," he said, voice low and dangerous, "the moon has awakened you." He turned his gaze skyward. The blood-red moon burned brighter, flooding the clearing in crimson. Then it begins again. And just like that, he was gone, vanished into a cloud of ash and shadow that melted into the trees. Silence crashed down. Wolves lay panting, wounded but alive. Hunters had scattered. Only the echo of the warden's voice remained, carved into the night. Clara dropped beside Damian, her hands trembling as she touched the wounds across his chest. The moment her fingers brushed his skin, warmth surged between them. Pure, blinding. His breath caught, his eyes snapping open. "Clara," he whispered, voice raw. "I'm here." Her voice trembled. "I thought—" He caught her wrist, pulling her closer. "You saved me." "No," she said, shaking her head. "I burned him. I don't know how I just felt it. And it happened." He studied her face, the fear and power in her eyes. "He said you remembered him," he murmured. "I don't," she said, but her voice faltered. "At least, I don't think I do." For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The forest still smelled of blood and rain. Then Damian pulled her against him, his body heat searing against her trembling frame. "You're safe now," he said. But even he didn't sound convinced. Above them, the moon bled red across the sky, watching, waiting. And in the distance, deep in the forest's heart, a whisper rose on the wind. "The moon will claim what's hers." Chapter 7. The Broken Vow. The blood-red moon had begun to fade, its light thinning to pale silver as dawn crept through the forest. Smoke curled from the ground where the warden's power had burned the soil, leaving black scars like veins of shadow. The pack moved quietly, tending to their wounded. No one spoke of what they had seen. Clara stood at the edge of the clearing, staring toward the trees where the warden had vanished. The echo of his voice still lingered in her chest. "You've just forgotten what it cost you." Forgotten what? Her hands trembled. The same light that had flared in her palms during the battle now pulsed faintly beneath her skin, as if something alive slept inside her veins. Behind her, Damian's footsteps were silent, but sure. He didn't need to say her name. She felt him before she heard him, the pull, the unmistakable heat that stirred when he was near. "You should rest," he said softly. She turned to face him. His chest was bare beneath his torn shirt, bandages cutting across his ribs, his skin marked by battle and moonlight. But his eyes, those fierce, molten eyes, held something rawer than pain. "I can't sleep," she murmured. "Every time I close my eyes, I see him." Damian stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "The warden won't touch you again," he said, voice low. "Not while I breathe." "Damian," she whispered, looking up at him. "He said I called his name, that I made some kind of oath. What if I brought this on us?" His jaw tightened. "Don't." "But if I did—" He caught her by the wrist, gentle but firm. "Listen to me. Whatever he meant, it's not your fault. I've seen how you fight it, how you fight him." Their eyes met, and something inside her cracked open. She wanted to believe him, but the truth pressed against her ribs like a secret begging to be freed. The warden's voice, the chains, the power, all of it called to a part of her she didn't understand. Damian must have seen the fear flicker across her face because his touch softened. His thumb brushed the pulse at her wrist, slow, steady. "Clara, you don't have to face this alone." "I don't know if I can face it at all." "You can," he said. "You already have." For a long moment, they just stood there, the world quiet around them, the sky dimming with the last traces of night. Then, without meaning to, Clara stepped closer. His scent, smoke, cedar, and something wild wrapped around her like a memory. She whispered, "When you were chained, I felt your pain like it was mine." "That's the bond," he said, his voice a rasp. "It ties more than hearts." Her gaze fell to the bandages across his chest, the way his breath caught as she reached up, her fingertips tracing the edge of the wound. "Does it hurt?" Only when you're too far away. Her lips parted a soft, unsteady breath. The air between them thickened, warm, alive. He lowered his head until his forehead brushed hers. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. But she didn't. Couldn't. Her hands rose to his face, her touch trembling but sure. He leaned into it, eyes half closed, the line between restraint and surrender blurring with every heartbeat. When their lips met, it wasn't gentle. It was years of silence and longing compressed into one fragile moment, desperate, defiant, real. The world tilted. The bond flared white hot, light sparking behind her eyelids. And then a searing flash of memory ripped through her mind. A temple of stone. A circle of fire. Her own voice crying out words she couldn't remember, a promise sealed in blood and moonlight. She gasped and broke away, clutching her head. "No, no, no, I saw—" Damian caught her before she fell. "Clara." Her eyes were wide, distant. "I swore something. I think to him. To the Warden." He held her tighter, his breath rough against her hair. "Then we'll break it." She shook her head weakly. He said, "Vows made under the moon can't be undone." "Then I'll tear the moon from the sky if I have to," Damian said, his voice trembling with fury and something deeper, fear. Her body trembled against his, the warmth of his arms grounding her even as the memory's chill lingered in her veins. For a moment, it was just them, the Alpha and the girl fate had bound, holding each other against a storm neither fully understood. And high above them, the dawn bled into day, pale light washing over the forest as though trying to erase the night's scars. But the vow had already awakened, and the moon, ancient and watchful, was listening. Chapter 8. The Alpha's Burden. The sun rose heavy over the horizon, bleeding gold through the treetops, but there was no warmth in it. Not for the wolves. Not after the night that had stolen too many of their own. Damian stood before the pyres, his eyes shadowed. Smoke curled around him as the pack laid their fallen to rest. Every spark that rose into the air felt like a name he'd failed to protect. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence between him and his wolves was sacred, carved out by grief and respect. When the last flame died, the pack bowed their heads and dispersed, leaving their Alpha alone with the ashes. Only Clara stayed. She stood at a distance, her hands clasped before her, unsure if she had the right to approach. The forest seemed to hold its breath around Damian. The power in him was quiet now, coiled and dangerous, the calm before the storm. When he finally turned, the exhaustion in his eyes nearly undid her. "You should be resting," he said softly, the words more habit than command. "So should you," she answered. "But neither of us are we?" A faint, humorless smile tugged at his mouth. "Alphas don't rest." She hesitated, then stepped closer. "You lost people last night. Good people." He looked away, jaw tight. "I lose people every time the moon rises. Every battle costs us something. But this time, it feels different. Because of me," she said quietly. His gaze snapped back to her. "No." "Yes," she insisted. "The Warden came for me, Damian. He said my name. He spoke like I belonged to him. If I wasn't here—" He closed the distance between them in 2 steps. "If you weren't here, I'd be dead." The words hit her like a pulse. His voice dropped, low and rough. "You saw what was coming before it came. You saved half my pack, Clara. You think that's a curse? Then it's the only one I'll ever thank the gods for." She wanted to believe him, but the doubt wouldn't leave. "The pack doesn't see it that way," she murmured. "They look at me like I brought death into their home. They look at you like they look at me, with fear, because they don't understand what you are." He stepped closer still. "But I do." Her heart quickened. "And what am I?" His eyes darkened. "The only thing keeping me from becoming the monster they whisper about." The silence stretched. The bond between them hummed, low and electric. She whispered, "You talk like you're cursed, too." He smiled bitterly. "Every alpha is. Leadership isn't strength. It's a wound you keep open so the others can bleed less." She took another step, standing close enough to feel the heat of his breath. "Then let me heal it." He froze, eyes flicking over her face as if searching for meaning. Her hand lifted to his chest, to the scar still fresh from battle. Beneath her palm, his heartbeat was unsteady. "Clara." She looked up, her eyes bright with something that wasn't fear this time. "You said I saved you. Let me do it again." And before he could speak, she rose onto her toes and kissed him soft this time, trembling, but sure. The world slowed. The forest blurred. His hand came up to cradle her face, gentle despite the strength in it. For a heartbeat, there was no Alpha, no prophecy, no Warden. Just a man and the woman who made him remember he was more than his duty. But then, from somewhere deep in the forest, a howl shattered the silence sharp, urgent, afraid. Damian tore away, instincts snapping back into place. "Trouble at the borders," he muttered, the Alpha taking over again. Clara grabbed his arm. "I'm coming with you." "No," he said quickly, too sharply. "You stay here. I can't protect you and them at the same time. Damian, I can help. You've helped enough." His voice cracked like thunder, and the look of pain that crossed her face made him immediately regret it. He stepped back, guilt flickering across his eyes. "I didn't mean—" She turned away. "Yes, you did." He wanted to stop her, to pull her back, to undo the words that had already cut too deep. But the second howl came, closer now, and duty clawed its way to the front. He shifted in one motion fur, muscle, and fire and was gone into the forest. Clara stood there, trembling in the silence he left behind. And for the first time, she wondered if love and destiny could ever live in the same body, or if one was meant to destroy the other. Chapter 9. Shadows of the Past. The rain came without warning. It swept through the forest in a cold, relentless curtain, washing away the scent of blood and smoke that had lingered since the battle. The storm was cleansing, but the air felt heavy, like the world was preparing for something it couldn't undo. Clara wandered through the Alpha's den, the sound of rain whispering against the roof. Every drop felt like a heartbeat. Every heartbeat, like a memory she couldn't quite reach. She had slept little since Damian left to hunt the remnants of the enemy. Each night, the same dream, a circle of fire, a man cloaked in darkness, a vow whispered beneath a blood moon, and her voice trembling, promising him something terrible. Tonight she couldn't take it anymore. She lit a candle and walked to the ancient chamber beneath the den, the one Damian had forbidden her to enter. The door was carved with runes older than the pack itself, their edges glimmering faintly as if alive. Her fingers hovered over them. The closer she came, the stronger the hum in her blood grew. Then, a voice behind her. "You shouldn't be here." She spun. Rowan stood in the shadows, his once proud frame weakened but alive. His punishment had been brutal, but his eyes sharp. Cold had not softened. Clara's heart stuttered. "You're supposed to be resting." He stepped closer, his limp evident, his tone bitter. "I could say the same for you, Luna." "I'm not your Luna," she said, voice trembling. He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "No, but you're his, and that makes you all of ours whether you want it or not." She swallowed. "You know what this place is, don't you?" Rowan's gaze drifted to the runes. "It's where the first Alpha made his pact, where power was bought with blood, and where it all began to rot." Her pulse quickened. "The Warden?" He nodded slowly. "The first Warden wasn't a man. He was a guardian spirit, a keeper of balance between our kind and the moon. But when the old Alpha tried to bind his power, the spirit was twisted. The guardian became the monster." Clara's hand brushed the carvings. They pulsed beneath her touch, soft, warm, alive. "Then what does that make me?" Rowan studied her with something like pity. You're his echo, his anchor, the human part of a vow that never died. The words struck her like lightning. That's impossible. Is it? Rowan whispered. You think it's a coincidence that the Warden calls you mine? He remembers you, Clara, not because you're his enemy, but because you were once his. The candlelight flickered violently, the flame stretching tall and blue. A low hum filled the air, deep and resonant. The runes began to glow brighter. Step back, Rowan said quickly. You're waking it. But before he could finish, the light burst outward, flooding the room in blinding silver. Clara gasped. The world tilted, and suddenly she was somewhere else, a temple of stone, a sky full of fire, wolves kneeling before a throne made of bone. She saw herself or someone who looked like her, standing at the center of it all, her hair crowned in light, her hands dripping with blood. The Warden knelt before her, his face hidden by the same shadowed hood she had seen in every dream. Her voice echoed through the hall. By the moon and the flame, I bind you to me, until death remembers. The vision shattered. She stumbled backward into Rowan's arms, gasping for air. Her candle had gone out. Only the faint shimmer of the runes lit the chamber. Rowan's expression was pale, haunted. What did you see? Clara's voice shook. The truth. She looked up, eyes burning with tears. I made the vow. I bound him. I created the Warden. Rowan's jaw clenched. Then you're the key to ending him. The words should have comforted her, but instead, dread flooded her chest. Because deep inside, beneath the fear and guilt, a part of her still felt that connection. Still heard his voice whispering in the dark. You gave me your soul once, my love, and I've come to take it back. The candle reignited not by her hand, but by something unseen, and this time the flame burned black. Chapter 10. The Warden awakens. The storm had ended, but the forest was far from silent. Lightning had stripped the sky bare, leaving behind a bruised dawn, gray, still, and trembling with the scent of fear. The pack huddled in uneasy silence outside the den, their eyes on the horizon where the mist hung thick and motionless. Even the birds had gone quiet. Damian returned at first light, his body streaked with blood and ash. His wolf form melted away as he stepped into the clearing, human again, though the fury in his eyes was anything but. Where is she? He demanded. The pack exchanged uncertain glances. No one spoke. It was Rowan who finally limped forward, guilt written across every line of his face. She went below, he said. Into the old chamber. Damian froze. You let her? I tried to stop her, Rowan said, voice cracking. But it's too late. Damian didn't wait to hear more. He was already moving, his heartbeat a thunderclap in his chest. Down through the stone corridors, past the walls carved with old prayers and warnings, all leading to the one place no Alpha was meant to tread. The chamber door stood open. The air shimmered with heat, and the scent, sharp, metallic, unnatural, hit him like a blow. Clara. She was on her knees at the center of the room, light coiling around her body like silver fire. The runes burned crimson, pulsing with each beat of her heart. Her eyes were unfocused, her hands pressed to the ground as though holding something inside. He ran to her, dropped to his knees, grabbing her shoulders. Clara, stop, you're feeding it. Her lips moved, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. It was layered hers and something ancient beneath it. It remembers. The light flared. Damian stumbled back, shielding his eyes as the chamber shook. The runes burst one by one, shards of glowing stone falling like embers. And then, silence. When the light dimmed, Clara was gone. In her place, standing where she had knelt, was the Warden. The same cloak, the same aura of death and moonlight, but now his face was visible, and it wasn't monstrous at all. It was heartbreakingly human. Pale skin, eyes that glowed faintly blue, and in them, sorrow so deep it bordered on madness. He looked at Damian and smiled. "You kept her warm," the warden said softly. "I should thank you for that." Damian bared his teeth. "What have you done to her?" "She's where she's always been," the warden replied. "Inside me. She called me once, bound me to her will, and now, by the blood of that same vow, I've come to claim what's mine. You'll have to go through me first." "I intend to." The floor trembled. Power surged outward like a tidal wave. Damian's wolf rose from within, his skin shattering into fur and flame as he lunged, claws meeting shadow. The clash was instant, violent. The air cracked with sound as magic collided with flesh, light with darkness. The chamber walls split, runes burning out one by one. Damian fought with everything he had: teeth, rage, love, but every blow he struck was turned aside by an unseen force. "You can't kill what's already bound," the warden said calmly. "You can only choose how the story ends." Damian roared, driving him back until, for a moment, he saw her. Clara's face flickered within the light of the warden's chest, her eyes wide, her hands pressed against an invisible barrier. "Damian!" he faltered. "Clara!" "Don't let him win," she whispered. "You have to break the vow." "How?" he shouted. Her voice trembled. "With what bound us first. Not the moon, not the curse, the bond." He understood. Damian dropped to his knees, forcing his wolf to still. The warden advanced, confused. "You surrender?" "No." He met the warden's eyes, voice steady. "I remember her." He pressed his hand to his chest, the mark that had burned since the night they first met. The bond flared white-hot, brighter than the warden's shadow. "You may have her power," Damian growled, "but her heart, that's mine." The warden snarled, the light inside him fracturing. Cracks split across his form like lightning, each one glowing brighter. Clara's voice echoed through the chamber. "Break it, Damian." He reached through the light, through the storm, through the bond, and pulled. There was a sound like glass shattering, and the warden screamed not in rage, but in agony, as the power that had bound him began to unravel. Clara stumbled free, collapsing into Damian's arms as the warden's form disintegrated, scattering like ash in the wind. The chamber fell silent. Only the two of them remained breathless, broken, alive. Clara pressed her face to his chest, her voice shaking. "Is it over?" Damian looked at the ashes glowing faintly on the floor, the last whisper of the warden's power. "For now," he said softly. Outside, the first light of dawn slipped through the trees, but it wasn't warm. It was cold, pale like the moon itself was watching. And deep in the ashes, unseen by either of them, the black flame flickered once alive again. The warden sleeps, but he does not die. The story continues in episode 3. Kindly like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.